Honestly, I am a believer, and I've said this many times, of trying to stay as close to home as possible, if possible, to have any type of surgery, especially elective surgery.
Hmm.
However, that's not always possible. I mean, sadly, there are only a handful of doctors throughout the United States, throughout North America, and throughout the world who are really performing state of the art surgical hair restoration. And it is quite possible that there's no one in your hometown that is going to meet the standards that are, that you're expecting. So a lot of people are traveling for this type of cosmetic surgery. So I think it's a really great service.
Well, thank you. And it's fun for sure, but make no mistake, it's also exhausting. I got back. I was in Belgium last week, and I just got back on Thursday, and here it is Tuesday. I'm still still recovering. I had just gotten over my jet lag by the time I hopped on a plane to come right back to Vancouver, and so it's draining, and but it's worth it. It's fun. I get to meet some really good people, and what I like about what I'm doing is I'm learning that. Well, it's kind of a carryover to where I thought things would be. Is I like to work with people that I like in general.
Yeah, but that's
Uh,
tough, man.
People that I can be friends with, right?
That's
And
important. And I think
it
for
is.
for you, being in the position that you're in, I think that affords you the ability to work with and pick and choose people that you really like. I'm not saying that I don't work with people that I like. I don't have, my relationship with the members of the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons has to be slightly more distant
Of
than
course.
I would say your relationship with the doctors that you're going to work with, because there are times, and I've done it recently, where I've had to drop surgeons. And some of these guys have been around for a while. And then if we get consistent complaints, I have to cut that cord. And
Right.
if you become too friendly with these guys, that could become very uncomfortable. And it can kind of, interrupt or, kind of get in the way of what my real job is.
Of
I'm
course. You
not
can
out
cloud your
here.
judgment.
I'm not out and cloud my judgment. I'm not out here to, and again, I'm friendly with as friendly with all of my members as I can be, but it's kind of difficult for me to go out and have drinks with them and to hang out and to hang out with their families and to have dinner, because if something happens and I can't keep them on anymore, um, it's a very awkward and uncomfortable situation that I don't want to be in.
Of course.
So but yeah, I mean, I kind of wish I can do what you were doing, because you're actually able to kind of get deeper into these people's lives and get a better psychological understanding of why they do what they do. And
Well, it's what I like about this is, take Dr. Dennis, for instance. He was the first doctor I brought on into the hair transplant mentor
and I don't mean to cut you off.
alliance
I
or
want you
whatever,
to finish
but
that thought, but I will tell you this: that he is one of the greatest guys. I've been in this industry for almost 20 years, and I have. It is rare. I'm not going to say I never have. It is rare to meet such a guy who's not only incredibly talented and incredibly smart, but he is probably one of the most ethical hair transplant surgeons I have ever had the pleasure of knowing.
100%. And I got to tell you, I thought I jumped the shark with my first doctor.
Yeah.
Right out of the gate. It's like I was talking to him for probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks before I actually went to Istanbul to visit his clinic and to document. And I got there, and the first night that I was there, we were in his SUV going to dinner, or to meet his wife and kid, go to dinner, and I realized this guy is really top notch, and I could tell that I was going to like him. And then, like, by the time I left, I realized he's probably not the best first doctor for me, because he's A+ across the board, not just with talent, not just with his abilities and his smarts and his ethics, but he's just a fun guy to hang out with. He's a good guy. And I was really genuinely worried that I had literally jumped the shark, just kind of peaked with my first doctor. And I mean, it's a testament to him as a person, as a doctor, but it was a genuine concern for me.
Well, here's the thing that, and this is very important that people understand this. A lot of doctors out there, they will talk the talk as far as, they may be great at what they do, but
Yeah.
as far as being truly ethical, as far as associating themselves with, people who are ethical as well, sometimes that kind of it doesn't seem as important to even some of the great doctors out there. You know, the bottom line in most industries, including this industry, unfortunately, sometimes is the bottom line.
Yeah.
And with Dr. K, I have to say that he practices what he preaches, and
He really
he
does.
he has really proven to be an incredibly ethical guy on so many levels. And I'm not going to get into any specifics, but I was floored. I was really floored at this guy's courage and at this guy's just resolve
Yeah.
to just stick to his guns and say, you know what, I need to do what I need to do in this industry, and no one's going to tell me any differently. Whether it's a physician, or whether it's another group of physicians, or if someone is saying that he has to do things a certain way, as far as what he does in his practice, he's like, no, no, I'm going to do what's best for my patients, and I'm proud of the guy.
I'm very proud of him. He's certainly shown a backbone that I think some people didn't expect, and a lot of people sure as hell didn't realize. And like you said, I could talk about this forever, but the bottom line is he's a fantastic doctor, and it was just a great first experience right out of the gate doing what I'm doing. And I'm happy to say that while I did experience a few situations where I was questioning, okay, Dr. K was the first, maybe he set the bar too high. I did get myself in a couple situations where I would go visit a clinic, and then I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe the bar is set too high. This is kind of heart-wrenching, to be honest. But then I found another doctor.
Yeah, you just got back from Brussels.
I just got back from Brussels. Another doctor that I think is also A+ across the board. Just great ethics, great procedure, and more importantly, or I won't say more importantly, but just as importantly, proper medical and surgical protocols, cleanliness in the OR, proper sterilization techniques. And these are things that are extremely important to me. These are things that I have seen in other clinics, and I've walked out.
I know.
I've walked out because it just can't work with them, because of these simple things I think every clinic should be doing, but unfortunately, not every clinic is doing. Dr. Lupinzula, Emmerine Lupinzula in Brussels, IAHRS member, and I'm happy to say an HT hair transplant mentor partner.
Yeah. Oh, listen, he's definitely, he's a great guy. He's great at what he does. He's passionate about what he does, and I think that you guys kind of working together is going to bring a whole new focus, I think, on some of the doctors in that area. I mean, there's some great doctors in Brussels.
There's some great ones.
There's no doubt about it. But he is a very little-known physician, at least here in the U.S. And you have your Ferradinis, and you have your Mwambas, and you have your Bazangas, and guys who have been known for a very long time. But there's so many people that are in that area or who want to travel to Brussels to have surgery. When I found out about Dr. L, I was like, wow, this guy is really incredibly talented, incredibly passionate. And I have to tell you, I have to thank you for that as well, because you actually took the time to go there, spend a lot of time in his practice. And what you were able to bring back is a wealth of information that I think most people in the field really they're not privy to. And you made me privy to it, and also now you're going to make the public privy to it.
Yeah, and that's coming up, and it was interesting. I told a few people behind the scenes where I was going, and everyone was saying, "Who the hell is Dr. Lupinzula?" No one ever heard of the guy before, and it was interesting. I first met him, of all places, in Istanbul, when I was there for the FUE conference, hosted by Dr. Erdogan at ASMED there in Istanbul, and he was actually on the faculty. And being on the faculty of this workshop, it means that you're presenting your technique. You're actually performing a surgery. And so we were me and everyone in attendance were going through the different ORs during the multiple days of this workshop and observing. And the one thing I kept hearing, everyone likes to step out of the OR and, later on when they're having cocktails, whatever, they're talking about the techniques that they saw, talking about the different things that the different doctors are doing. And every single one of them, every single person that was talking about the different surgeries, there are 4 ORs going with multiple doctors. Everyone said, boy, that Dr. Lupinzula, he really stood out. And that caught my attention.
Yeah.
And we started talking. We started, he actually came up to me. And it's kind of a funny thing is both doctors I'm working with currently had never heard of me before.
Yeah. Which honestly is kind of odd. I mean, it's not, maybe it's not, maybe they're better off not having spent any time on the message forums and not having to, because a lot of these guys are polluted by these fucking forums. And I'm not even just, listen, this Bald Truth Talk is something that I'm very proud of. We got into the forum business very late in my career. And I was basically asked to get involved because a lot of the doctors in the field felt that the other forums, and I'm not saying that they are, but they felt that they were corrupt and that they wanted something that was a little bit more consumer-friendly and a little bit more physician-friendly and a little bit more professional.
And safer, just overall.
And safer, just overall. And, basically safer in my view, for the consumer. So we put up the forum, it's now the #1 most trafficked forum in the industry in the world, and there's no denying that. So no matter who says otherwise, that is the case. And we've even chosen to not allow private messaging, things of that nature, because of all the dirty stuff that goes on behind the scenes. Now, if you take private messaging out of a forum, I don't think you guys understand how much traffic you actually lose. If we just turned on our private messaging, our traffic would go through the roof comparatively, and we're still #1. But the point that I'm trying to make is he wasn't corrupted by the forums. And there's a couple of other guys out there who may not know you because you're so well known in the forums. I think that they are kind of the fortunate doctors in the field, because now they're getting more involved and they're going to be involved in the forums. They kind of understand how to utilize them correctly and not kind of get into the mix in a way where they feel they need to get into the trenches and fight with consumers or, try to make these nonsensical points that really don't matter in what they're doing. The bottom line is, if they want to utilize the forums, they're there for physicians to help patients. That's it. Not just to sit there and make points. And I think you know what I'm talking about.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. There's no ego that's driving their motivation to get into debates and cases of one-upmanship, which are useless.
Well, my thing is, I want the doctors to utilize the forums to educate patients. Now, there's no doubt there is a strong marketing aspect. Any doctor who's involved in the forum, there's a strong marketing aspect because they're becoming more visible online. And that's fine, as long as they're out there helping people. Obviously, anyone who's involved in my forum is an accepted member of the IHRS. So we know that they're doing great work. But once physicians start to pander to vulnerable hair loss sufferers, that's when we have to pull back the reins. And that's when we basically draw the line. And that doesn't seem to happen in other forums.
No, you don't see anything like that. And what's interesting, I hope that this is a testament to this direction I'm taking, is because these guys, Dr. Lupinzula, Dr. Cardenas, had no idea who I was before we started talking. Had no idea that I've been around for 11 plus years in the industry, almost 15 years as a visible patient on the forums. The idea of what I'm doing, the approach to what I'm doing, was still enough for them to say, we're on board. Yes, please come to our clinic. Please review us. Please bring video. Please, we want to be considered. We want to work with you, because even then they were able to see that there was a value and a unique approach to what I've come up with. And so that's kind of cool. I thought about it. It's like, wow, okay, well, they don't know who I am, and they still signed on, and they're learning, obviously. But it was a nice acknowledgement.
Well, here's the
for
thing.
what I'm
You're
doing.
offering an incredible service. Besides to the physician, you're offering an incredible service to the patient. The only reason I have you on this program now, the only reason I think it's important that you're part of the Bald Truth, is because you have a unique perspective of the industry. And you're also a patient who has had 9 hair transplants.
You
As
remember?
much as I know, what'd you say?
You remember this
I
time?
did, yeah. I usually say 10. As much as I know about the industry, as much as I know where all the bodies are buried, and I know the inside, every ugly detail of the reality of this industry, as you do, you have a different perspective because you worked with a clinic, 2 clinics. You saw patients coming in every day while we are the clearinghouse for complaints throughout the world. So you're talking about thousands of unhappy patients contacting us every single year through the American Hair Loss Association, through the IHRS, and through the Bald Truth. So my perspective is a little different than yours as far as the sheer number of the craziness that happens out there.
Right.
You were dealing with people face to face,
Yep.
so I
Thousands.
thought that was incredibly valuable to bring you on board and to have you as part of the program. And I have to tell you, if I'm going to be candid, I've gotten shit for it. I've gotten shit from other clinics, especially when you were working for, Dr. Hassan Wong and for Dr. Rahal, because they
Yeah.
thought, well, that's unfair. He's a representative of a clinic. It didn't matter to me. What mattered to me is that you were able to get a perspective across to prospective patients who are considering surgical hair restoration that no matter what I say and no matter how much information I have, it's always nice to hear from a guy who's been through it personally.
Well, no, and to be fair, I understand the complaints. I understand the perspective if they're not really aware of how I operate, right? I mean, on the outside, it's well, he's working for a clinic, and so why is he involved in this unbiased medium when he's clearly biased? Well, it's because I was probably the most biased person out there, if that makes sense.
Well, and that's what I tried to, and I have. I was successful in explaining this to a lot of the doctors, but you have to understand that because of the position that I'm in, it was always very difficult to bring anybody on board, whether it was you, whether with the UK show, and I was working, doing some shows and segments with Specs.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, everyone's like, "Oh, wait a second, he's a representative for Dr. Feller. Why would you allow this guy on your show?" Well, he works in the industry.
Yeah. He's got valuable input. He's got a point of view that some people don't see, right?
Now,
so it makes sense.
I am seeing a little bit of a lag via Skype on your end, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're noticing it, if you're seeing it on the video.
A little bit. Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm going to do anyway, and we're going to take some calls. It's 888-659-3727. That's 888-659-3727. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to see if maybe we can disconnect and reconnect.
Okay.
But don't disconnect yet. I have to make sure that Zarian is on board with that. So just so hold on, guys. 888-659-3727. I'm Spencer Kobren. Oh Jesus, that was pretty funny. I'm Spencer. I'm Spencer Kobren. You're listening to and watching The Bald Truth. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this quick break. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hi, I'm a big fan of Joe Tronics. My name is Andrew Zarian.
What's happening,
thank you,
Andrew?
Thanks for calling.
How are you?
I have to call from my laptop because my phone absolutely sucks and it keeps dropping out every time I call.
Well, first of all, thank you for helping us test the new line. So,
anytime. Listen, you guys look great.
Well, listen, you did this, dude. You came here. You flew from fucking Bayside, Queens, to Los Angeles to basically. I keep saying, help me set this up. You set this up.
Listen, we still have a lot of work to do. I'm probably going to be out there in about a month to set up the new video stuff. We got the audio going. We got to do the video now.
Oh, great. More money.
More money, more money, more money.
I think he just likes the trips out. All it is a simple video card install.
It's a funny thing. He's walked me through some of those, and it seemed to work out. But now, all of a sudden, anything that needs to be changed, he has to come out to Los Angeles.
Of course. Oh, you need a new driver. I need to come out.
Listen, we just got a deal with AJA Media, so Aj is going to be providing us with all new video capture devices. We're going to be doing 1080p, all SDI, real deal studio stuff. So, we're going to be setting that up in about a month.
Which is actually very exciting. And I don't think that our viewers and listeners really understand. People see us on the online, and the quality of the video looks really good. But imagine seeing this program in basically TV quality, on the internet.
You're doing actually Fox News quality video at this point.
Well, we're doing 720p right now, right? So that's Fox News quality.
A lot of stations still do 720.
Yeah.
I mean, Joe's hair looks unbelievable. Let me just tell you that.
It's crazy.
I can't see it. It's not quite as crisp on the video for me, but I'll take your word for it.
I mean, you look unbelievable. It's astonishing.
Thank you.
Well, what's
the excellent video?
If we were to do anything, Spence, Joe's just a little low, so if you could pot him up a little bit for me, that'd be really good.
That is interesting because he's pretty high on my board.
So if we're going to get technical, you got to just put his aux send up a little bit. So he would be on aux send 3. So just pot up aux send 3 on whatever channel I'm on. So 7 and 8.
Whatever channel you're on.
Yeah. So if that means anything to you.
Yeah.
But I mean, I could deal with it. I could hear it. So I wanted to call because I wanted to talk about Propecia for a little bit.
That's actually great. By the way, you've been on Propecia for how long now?
A little over 7 months.
Now you understand the dangers of talking about your positive experiences with Propecia, right?
I do. I understand.
Become public enemy number 1.
I already get the messages every single day on Facebook. I mean, every single day on Facebook, I get the messages telling me about how evil I am, how I'm a Merc agent, how all these things are awful, and how things aren't. It's just insane the messages I've been getting. But
listen. In all fairness, I just want to make it clear that there are guys out there who are truly suffering with adverse side effects, and who either believe they are suffering with long-term adverse side effects, or who are actually physically dealing with these, this phenomenon that is now called post-finasteride syndrome. And I believe it.
Can I be honest, Spence?
You can be honest, sure.
I think most of these people are wackos.
Well, I mean, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with
Facebook
that.
activity to skyrocket.
Yeah.
There is the 1% of people suffering from serious side effects from this medication. I understand that, but the pandemic that we have seen online from people claiming that after taking one pill, their stuff is no longer working. I've seen threads about people claiming that they're no longer producing semen. These are people that are mentally ill, or they are suffering from other effects from drug abuse or poor management of healthcare.
Well, yeah, I will tell you this. I cannot take that stance. My stance is this. I believe that if they believe it's happening to them, then it really is happening to them.
I mean, I believe that there are aliens living on Pluto. Does that make it a fact?
Jesus, Joe, what am I going to do with this guy? What do you think?
I don't think there's anything he can do. He's in New York. Give it a month. He's coming out. Then you can wrestle him down.
I mean, I want to be honest about this because I get this all the time, and it bothers me so much. Where, I mean, I meet people in bars, and I talk to people constantly about hair loss at this point because The Bald Truth is a nationally syndicated show. People know the show, and people know that I'm affiliated with the show. And the first thing people say to me is, well, I'm afraid to go on this because I know this and this has happened.
It all comes down to limp dick syndrome.
It's post-finasteride syndrome, but I mean, is it really post-finasteride syndrome, or is it?
Well, there's two different issues. There's people who are actually suffer from side effects while they're taking the drug, and then once they stop taking the drug, the side effects will subside or diminish, and in most cases, just completely disappear. But there is this subset of guys who seem to suffer some bizarre phenomenon, where even when they stop using the drug, or even if they haven't had major side effects on the drug, and they stop using the drug, they seem to be suffering what is now termed post-finasteride syndrome, where they kind of go through this hormonal crash, and all of a sudden they're unable to attain or maintain an erection. And, you know, apparently, and listen, I can't deny it because there seems to be so many guys who are dealing with it. Now, when I say so many, it's a subset of guys who seem to be sensitive to this, and they are very vocal. So, you know, percentage-wise, it's probably a lot smaller than, you know, if you go online, everyone who's on Propecia can't get a hard-on. But the truth is, it's probably an extremely small percentage, but I believe that it's probably happening. I mean, what do you think,
You
Joe?
had a guy that called in a couple months
Look,
ago.
you take 1 million people out there, and 1%'s 1,000 guys that are complaining about it, and there's more than 1 million people that have jumped on the Propecia bandwagon. So, I think that there's an extrapolation issue, and then of course when you take into account that, you know, when people are talking about their experience with anything, especially with Propecia, but with anything that they as a consumer have consumed, the statistics is that if they're happy with an experience, they'll tell maybe 2 people, but if they're upset about an experience, they'll tell 10 people. And so you have that issue to contend with when you're looking at this, not to mention the fact that there are no actual legitimate, in my opinion, research papers or studies about this issue that have been published. Now, in my personal experience, working in a clinic for 11 years, I can't recall a single patient that came to me after the fact and said, I'm still having issues. I did speak to one patient who actually said, yeah, it bothered me so long, for such a long time, I had to start taking Viagra. And
but
boy,
let me ask you this, though.
oh, hang on. Here's the big point about this one. And we're continuing to talk. I'm asking him questions. And I said, yeah, that must have been expensive to keep having to use Viagra. He goes, well, you know, it was expensive when I had to use it, but now I don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
Crickets.
Cricket, yeah, exactly.
And what do you mean you don't have to use it anymore? Well, I got my junk back. Oh, so you aren't suffering from this permanent issue. And he actually had an epiphany. He's like, holy shit, I guess I'm not. And I think that a lot of that is pervasive in the in the approach of, or the idea that it's so widespread.
Well, it's important to me that it's not diminished. That's the only thing. And I've said this before, and I do believe there are guys out there who are suffering to the degree where they are not functioning, not only sexually, but they're not functioning well in their everyday life, and they've become obsessed. And I have to say that if I'm being completely candid, if I believed that if that happened to me, I'd probably be just as vocal, if not more vocal, because I know how to get the word out there in a big way. So I can't blame these guys. But I certainly, listen, I was just speaking to a good friend of mine who I grew up with. I've known since I was 10 years old. And we were just talking. He just recently turned 50. Talking about his hair, talking about, like, basically he was saying how I saved his hair. He started using finasteride 13 years ago. And he, you know, compared to the rest of my peers, he started losing his hair relatively late in life. Mm-hmm. But it was aggressive. It started and then it became aggressive. And he has a really decent head of hair at this point. And he was talking about it.
I tell you the same thing. You pretty much saved my hair.
Well, I think I would say the show and just the information saved your hair. The fact that you were part of it and you knew about finasteride and you were willing to take the chance, even though you read all of these horror stories, I think that's what saved your hair.
I mean, both of you, Joe and Spence, you guys are really conservative with, you know, what you say on the show, because you guys are advocates and you guys have to play it safe. But as someone that is a total neurotic when it comes to side effects, with life, I'm obsessive compulsive. I read into everything a little bit too much. I have to tell you, this pill that I take once a day has totally changed my entire life.
Well,
for the positive, not for the negative.
Yeah, and I'm glad that that's the case. And listen, I saw you. I just saw you a couple of weeks ago, and it was, I have to say, where, you know, initially I knew there was some miniaturization happening. But it was so slow, and it also started a little bit later in life. You were like 26, 27, whatever. I was like, well, maybe he'll, just kind of the progression will stop and he'll be okay for a few more years. I didn't want to tell you that, all right, this is the beginnings of male pattern hair loss, because I didn't want you to jump on a drug just because, you felt you were, just progressing slightly. I didn't know what was going to happen, but you jumped on it. And I have to tell you, the reversal has been unbelievable. This guy now, his hair is bulletproof, dude.
Well, I've watched the photos on Facebook. I mean, I remember when this first started. He started taking the medication 7 or 8 months ago, and I remember the way his hairline looked, and
you could see it.
Yeah, you could see it, and I remember being a little bit kind of pulling back a little bit because Andrew is always at that time he was always come on the show. It's just receding here. What do you think? Can you see it? Is it and. I wasn't quite as honest as I could have been, but yeah, it was receding. But now, I can easily say, Spencer was telling me on the phone, dude, you can't believe this guy's hair. It's crazy. And I'm looking at, I'm following this on Facebook, and I'm seeing it. It's like, yeah, I mean, it looks fantastic.
It's fucking ridiculous, actually.
No, it's not. It's 8 months later. I mean, 8 months and 2 weeks. I started taking it December 4th, 2014. I was in Spencer's studio the first time I took the pill. And
I'm like, he's sitting in my studio. I'm like, this poor kid is balding. I'm just kidding.
I took it.
Is this thing on?
And I took the thing, and 3 days later, I started. I remember, I don't know. A part of it could have been psychological, obviously, but like many people that complained about post-finasteride syndrome, but I was able to pee better. I mean, 3 days in.
Yeah, but that's actually that's really interesting because it's very possible because you're on other medication for your back and stuff. It's really possible that you were getting a little bit of early stage benign prostate hyperplasia that was causing you to have problems peeing. And just by taking the drug, you were able to shrink. I mean, it happens pretty quickly once you start to lower those DHT levels. So. It may have helped you on a couple of different levels.
So what I also did about a month ago is I did a full blood screening of everything that you can imagine, allergies, testosterone, everything else, because I just want to know what's happening in my body. Mm-hmm. My testosterone levels were great. Everything was pretty much good except for my vitamin D and B12. It even checks for prostate health, and my prostate was totally fine. My liver is fine. My kidneys are fine. I'm in perfect condition being on this medication. I've never had any sexual side effects. And here's the thing. Listen, you go out, you drink a couple too many beers or whatever you're drinking, you come back and you're having some problems. What are you going to blame? Yourself, or are you going to blame the medication you're on? A lot of people are going to blame the medication they're on. A couple months ago, you had a caller that called into your show. The guy was a weightlifter. And he was saying that since he's been on the medication, that his muscles are softer. And then later in the conversation, you find out the guy is, getting a little older, and he's not what he used to be. So is it the medication, or is it just everything else happening in his life?
That's a common theme. It's a common theme. I'd have guys coming in or calling me, actually, and it's like, yeah, I'm having these problems, and I think it's another one is I think it's losing its effectiveness. Or I think that at this point, it's starting to affect me. And it would always be the same thing. It's like, well, okay, how old are you? Well, I'm 45, or I'm 55, or somewhere in between. And it would always be almost like a coincidence that's not the younger guys, right? Well, especially like the muscle softening issue. I've heard that one as well. But one of the ones that gets me is, it's been 5 years and it stopped working, which is normal. No, that's not normal. Medications don't just stop working. It's not like there's a bell curve where it just drops off at 5 years. It means that it didn't stop your loss. It's just a slow progression, and it probably took you about 5 years to even notice it to begin with. And a lot of this is tied in with age. A lot of this is tied in with visual creep. And what I mean by that is it takes you so long to actually see a difference. maybe seeing yourself in a photo from 5 years before, and then seeing yourself in a new photo or in the mirror. It can be any number of things, but I think a lot of it is just not putting two and two together for the situation at hand.
That's like my moobs, my man boobs. It's like that's a visual creep situation.
The moobs.
I had no idea. All of a sudden, it's like.
You've been on this medication for 20-something years. I mean, the amount of muscle you have. I mean, people don't realize it through his button downs, but this guy is jacked up.
Well, and I appreciate you saying that, but I'm kind of like a fat, like an overweight old wrestler. That's what I've turned into. But I was. I mean, there's a lot of.
You say that, it just cracks me up.
There was a lot of muscle underneath, but I take off my shirt today. It's kind of like all of a sudden, it's like what my chest used to be. My nipples were higher. That's all I'm going to say. But there are guys out there who would blame finasteride for that.
And the visual creep is accurate in this case because visually it's creepy as shit.
Oh, that's fucked up. That is just wrong.
Your nipples are absolutely perfect. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. but in all seriousness, I mean, when I went on this medication, my
Kate
wife
would be proud.
Yeah, my wife was really apprehensive of me going on it because she heard about the side effects. She's heard the stories on the show.
But you know what bothers me though is like your wife, she knows me. Does she think that I'm walking around, like limp, not having sex for the last 20 years?
Jess, what do you think?
Actually, I didn't know that he was on it.
Oh, she had no idea you were on the medication.
Oh, so I've been doing a hair loss show for 20 years. I've saved my hair for the most part. I had this crazy Trump the early years comb over, and I'm not on medication. How does that make sense?
I don't think she knew that you were on it. But when I went on it, she was really apprehensive, and she didn't know that it would really work until about a month ago, I made a side-by-side of what my hair was like in November and what my hair was like in June.
And she was like, thank God.
And she looked at it, she goes, holy shit. That was her exact rate. Like her jaw dropped.
Her exact words.
Yeah.
In about 7-8 months, of what my hair has become.
No, you are actually. I mean, I've known a lot of good responders over the years. You are probably one of the best responders I've ever seen. I mean, you have
8 months in the hairline. That's unheard of.
You have completely reversed the miniaturization process. Your hairline is a hairline of like a 21-year-old kid.
It really is.
And people could look at the picture. I mean, I have the picture, and I haven't posted online. There's one guy that constantly messages me. He's like, where's the picture? Where's the picture? I'm not going to post the picture. I may or may not. I don't know. Whatever I feel like doing. I don't have to prove anything to anybody else except for myself. But
well, at some point, post it on Bald Truth Talk. You don't have to post it on your Facebook page. If you want to post it on Bald Truth Talk, so at least our users can get an idea of what's possible.
And
I may do that. I may do a side by side.
Oh yeah, and watermark it exactly. And watermark it, because if you don't watermark it, all of a sudden you're going to have. I'm not going to name the companies, but every company is going to claim that
the transplant thing. Yeah,
it's going to be you got a transplant, or it's Revivagen, or it's a wig, or whatever.
I mean, I've been accused of a lot of it.
And by the way, nothing wrong with it. Not saying anything against the company Revivagen. It was just the first thing that came to my mind.
I mean, my serious assertion of this thing is that it works. It worked for me. I don't know if it'll work for you, but it absolutely worked for me, and it saved my hair.
Well, first of all, you are probably one of the few, and your wife, the few people I have allowed to see with my morning hair.
And your hair looks great.
And it really depends. Like if you guys are staying over the house, I sleep on like a pillow that's all propped up so it doesn't get too messed up. You think I'm kidding?
Just visualize the shit.
Joe, I did the same thing when you guys stayed at my house.
Yeah, and the morning hair, I don't remember it because I was too damaged.
I actually had to put a hat on for you guys because you guys.
I remember the hat. Yeah,
you're experts.
My eyes were barely open for the first 3 hours after I woke up. So
I'm a bloaty guy. Like I get really bloated when I drink and eat. I would say that I have never seen anyone quite as bloated after a night out as you. And I'm not saying it's not an insult. It's just for whatever it is that night, we must have had so much sodium.
I'm
It's
sure.
me or
well,
Joe?
For me.
What was that?
Who are you talking about, Jess, me, or Joe?
No, I'm talking about Joe.
yeah.
Joe. Jess has actually been in the house. She's watched me debloat in front of her.
Deep low.
Yeah, I'll sit there with an ice pack on my face, and we'll have tea and talk. And she's actually seen me debloat in person, which is it's a pretty interesting phenomenon,
It's like
actually.
if Jessica said that it's like a science experiment. You watch a human being just totally shrink half the size.
That's what it
That's
usually
the,
comes down to when you go to Spencer's house. It's a science experiment every
That's-
time.
That's the problem.
No, but I mean, the reality is that, listen, for many people, this medication will work, and don't let the negative posts on the internet deter you from using this. I mean, if you have the opportunity, if you're in your 20s and you have the opportunity to save what you have and save your hairline, you should honestly take that chance and do it.
You see, and I agree with what you're saying, but it's also important, being in the position that I'm in, being in the position that Joe's in, and I think Joe is a little bit more. I mean, Joe's a very cautious guy, but I get so many emails. I get so many people that write me, and I would say the vast majority of the people that use this drug write us with positive experiences. But there are those who are very miserable, who really believe that their lives have been destroyed by the drug. And I don't think that should be overlooked. I think it's something that should be part of the equation when anyone's considering taking any drug.